A small group from SETI used the radio dishes at Arecibo to send out a message to whoever might be listening. Arecibo received a message back from an extraterrestrial, unknown source. The message turned out to be a new sequence of DNA with a rather friendly instructions on how to combine it with ours, and we allowed one to grow.
You created a monster with some kind of formula you got from outer space. The damn thing got away, and now you want us to hunt it down and kill it. Now, is that pretty close?
Welcome to Now Playing Podcast's Species Retrospective Series.
Welcome to the maternity ward from hell.
Hosted by Jason.
Man of action, I like that.
That's me.
Justin.
Guys like you are hard to find.
And Arnie.
A perfect hero for these imperfect times.
But be warned, this episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
Yeah, it's time to get your hands dirty.
We hope you enjoy the show.
What are you waiting for?
Please, don't make me do this.
Do it.
Today we're discussing Species, starring Ben Kingsley, Michael Madsen, Alfred Molina, Forrest Whitaker, and introducing Natasha Henstridge, directed by Roger Donaldson. This is Arnie, co-host of Now Playing, and I guess we must all be here for the same reason, whatever that is.
This is Justin.
And I'm Jason.
So welcome to our Species Retrospective series. Again, looking at some fill-in content that we can do this year, and 1995, big year for movies for me, and one of those films was Species. We had 4 weeks, there are 4 Species films. I figured, let's go back and look at this celebrated franchise.
I definitely remember Species 1, right? Once again, this feels a little bit like the video game series where it's like, oh, I've heard of that movie, and then come to find out there's 5 or 6 sequels that I didn't know were out there that we're going to end up looking at.
Yeah, and I came into it with pretty good memories. I don't have memories of the last 2 sequels, but I remember the first 2 very well because I saw them in theaters. In fact, guys, here it is. This I'm holding in my hand right now is my ticket stub from seeing Species in summer 1995. July 17th, I was a couple of weeks late, but July 17th, 1995, I remember I took my high school girlfriend. We saw Species at 10:05 p.m., $7. That's how much it cost back then.
You took your high school girlfriend to see Natasha Henstridge naked?
I took her to a lot of movies that she probably regrets seeing.
Now, I did see this in theaters. I read a lot about it. I was reading a lot of entertainment magazines at the time. This was talked up. I knew quite a bit going in. I knew H.R. Giger, the biomechanical sexual artist who designed the alien from the Alien franchise, had created a new creature. I knew this model, Natasha Henstridge, who was naked a lot of the time in the movie. But neither of those would have gotten me to theaters. It would have gotten a rent, absolutely a rent, but not to theaters. What got me to theaters was this cast. I'm like, wait a second, there's a naked lady and an alien and Gandhi and Mr. Blonde and Forrest Whitaker? This is a movie I'm interested in. So it was actually the cast that got me to go see this. This came out in Apollo 13's second week. We reviewed Apollo 13 a few weeks ago. Never went to Apollo 13, but you put Ben Kingsley in an alien movie, you got me in theaters.
Priorities in the right order, I guess. I'm not sure what got me to the theater, but I do remember going to see this when it was out. Maybe it just had a really good ad campaign at the time, because I have a very fond memory of seeing this hot new blonde chick naked quite a bit, and especially the jacuzzi scene, that really stuck with me. Coming into this, I couldn't have told you who else was in this. I was surprised to see this cast list.
And I remember the campaign for this. I remember the Giger stuff was a big deal. They kept playing that up. I believe there was an HBO behind the scenes look. But really the thing that probably got me in there, and I think the thing that got a lot of people in there, was Natasha Henstridge, the best thing to come out of Canada since Maple Syrup. 19 years old, she says she was when she started working on this movie. It's crazy now to go back and look. This is kind of her star-making moment. She never became a huge star, but I watched interviews with her recently. She says she has really fond memories of this, and she knows that it's the film that put her on the map.
Yeah, she had been a model and wanted to be an actress, and when you look like Natasha Henstridge, that's not a hard gig to get. This was her third ever audition, and she booked the gig, and it's basically the starring role of the film. I mean, it says, and introducing Natasha Henstridge, you give the Oscar winner your top billing, but this is her movie through and through, and she's proud to say she never took another modeling gig again after this. She just became an actress and has done stuff. I can't say that I've seen her in a lot. I know I've seen her in some stuff, and she does quite a bit of television stuff.
Yeah, she's actually had a pretty good career doing some comedies, things that came after this. People know the whole 9 yards pretty well. I'm kind of a fan of a movie called Dog Park, which came out a couple of years after this. It's just a indie comedy from the Kids in the Hall guys. I really like that one.
Yep, that was a fun little low-budget one. But yeah, whole 9 yards, whole 10 yards. I remember going to see those, and most likely because she was in it, and I knew Chandler was in it as well. So those were decent movies. I enjoyed that. But I feel like she fell off. I know that she's still working and stuff like that, but I feel like I haven't thought about Natasha Henstridge in over a decade.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that she is still working quite a bit, both in movies and on TV. I have seen the whole 9 yards and the whole 10 yards. I don't remember a whole lot about those movies. It's been 25 years. My memory is I saw it for Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry, and Amanda Peet is the woman who grabbed my eyes in those movies, not Natasha Henstridge. So I don't remember who Natasha Henstridge was in them.
But she was the reason, I would say, she was the reason why Species was a very big hit for MGM in summer 95. This was actually their only hit. They didn't have another one that came out that summer, and we're talking about a big movie summer. You mentioned Apollo 13, Arnie. Other movies this summer, we had Batman Forever. We had Mortal Kombat that summer. Big Sandra Bullock summer with While You Were Sleeping. I think The Net as well was a hit then.
Yeah, and it didn't get good reviews, but it did bring in a lot of money. $35 million budget, which is pretty decent for a sci-fi movie in the mid-90s. I mean, it wasn't going to be a Terminator 2 budget of $100 million, but $35 million is not a small amount to spend. And globally, it made over $100 million. So despite not opening at number one, Apollo 13 was a bit of a juggernaut. If people were seeing a space movie that week, they chose Tom Hanks over Natasha Henstridge's tits. Bad choice, but it did very well, which is why we're going to be discussing 4 of them, and comic book spin-offs and action figure lines and all kinds of things that exist in the Species verse.
Yeah, Apollo 13 didn't get 3 spin-offs.
Yeah, nobody cares about that anymore.
Now, I was surprised to see the director of this, Roger Donaldson. You know, when I think about Species, I'm not really thinking of it as an auteur-driven film. I'm not really giving a lot of thought to who the director is of this, but this is a working guy who we've reviewed one of his films before, and I've seen quite a few of his films. He doesn't seem to have a particular genre, as this is the guy who would do Cocktail with Tom Cruise, Cadillac Man with Robin Williams, The Getaway with Alec Baldwin, and then after Species, Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan.
Journeyman director, no distinct style, and I think that's something that we may notice and talk about as we're going through this review. But, well, I think if there is an auteur behind this series, it's not Roger Donaldson. It may be this producer, Frank Mancuso Jr., who... Now, Plane fans are going to recognize that name because he is a big man behind the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yeah, he started off as an associate producer of the second one. He's the reason why we ended up with a Friday the 13th, the series that had that name, but had nothing to do with Jason, is because Frank Mancuso Jr. had the name and was able to utilize it to try to get new projects going. He also did that movie we reviewed, April Fool's Day, when we were looking at horror of 1986. You know, another 80s slasher. If you look at his career, there's a few high points that he did. I know a lot of people like Ronin, that Robert De Niro film.
You got to show me those people.
Oh, wow. I know a lot of people who love that film.
Wow.
I personally hold a fond spot in my heart for Body Parts, the Jeff Fahey 1991 horror film.
Yeah, I love it when you drop Body Parts, man. I do.
He also produced Cool World, that Brad Pitt, Kim Basinger, horny Roger Rabbit movie from the early 90s.
Bad.
But I would say if Frank Mancuso Jr. has a second feather in his cap beyond Friday the 13th, it's probably Species. And he was brought Species by the writer of this first film, Dennis Feldman, who had done some work on films and wrote a spec script to just shop around that he would be able to have complete ownership of Species. And it got to Frank, and Frank was like, all right, I think this could be a movie. And then Frank got Roger involved.
Nice. This Dennis Feldman, outside of having credits for the 4 Species films, he's got one for a movie called Virus and something called Real Men, neither of which I'm too interested in or familiar with.
Oh, I've seen Real Men.
Oh, do not see Virus. I saw Virus in theaters. That's that Jamie Lee Curtis 1999 sci-fi nightmare. And I mean, just so dull, so dumb. Oh, I hated that movie, but I think he got that gig because he wrote Species and they're like, okay, do more sci-fi.
Right. Well, the things that stick out on his resume to me are 2 movies that were very pivotal in my early days of watching cable TV. The first one is Just One of the Guys. Which one of us has not seen that movie and can ever forget the penultimate scene where she comes off being a guy with tits? You know?
One of the best movies ever made.
I love that movie to this day. It's so dumb.
I agree. I've actually rewatched it not all that long ago, and it holds up as the time capsule it is that could never be made today.
Oh, yeah.
Sherilyn Fenn is great in that movie, too, from Twin Peaks.
Yep.
That is a classic. Good job, Feldman.
And that was right out of the gate, and then he followed that up with The Golden Child, the Eddie Murphy movie, which... Hey, I mean, it might not be Eddie Murphy's greatest movie, but it's up there. I really enjoyed The Golden Child.
I was surprised. He is the only credited writer on The Golden Child, too. And I remember there being all that talk. If you go back to, I guess, our 2010 Easter egg review of The Golden Child, we talk about how that movie was initially written as like straight horror, and then they decide to amp up the comedy and put Eddie Murphy in it and my good dear brother Noompsy. But there were not like 6 writers credited for that. Feldman maintained sole writer credit. Whoever else may have done some changes to it.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, he was working on a different Alien film in the 80s. And he says he read an article by Arthur C. Clarke talking about how aliens are never going to come here in a UFO. You know, the distances are so great and faster than light travel is theoretically impossible. And so Arthur C. Clarke suggested that maybe they would send a message instead of just arrive War of the Worlds type style. And that is what Feldman says got him started thinking about a movie that he would title The Message, which was about a biologist who was working with a cop to stop an alien. It honestly sounds a little bit like The Hidden. But I have to be honest, when we're going to be talking about this movie, he may say he was thinking of an Arthur C. Clarke talk, but come on. He's thinking about Carl Sagan's 1985 novel Contact.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. It was a book in 85. I guess Feldman got it to screens first because Contact wouldn't be a movie until 97. And other than aliens send schematics from space, I do think the films diverge greatly, as in one's an action horror film and the other has some very heady ideas and Jodie Foster. But no matter what, he ended up just writing this film on his own and then selling it to Mancuso in 93 so that this would get made in 94 and out in 95.
You know, once you send it to Frank Mancuso, it's not going to be the Carl Sagan adaptation that you're looking for. He is going to put naked ladies and lots of gore into your movie. That's what sells tickets.
And it was, as I understand it, Feldman's idea to get H.R. Giger on board. And again, Giger, so renowned for those alien films. I don't know if either of you guys have ever gone into Giger's artwork, but I do have his book Necronomicon. It's this oversized book of gorgeous paintings that I picked up way back in the 90s and just admired his artwork so much. Feldman said that he thought this would be the guy to design our alien. So they went to Switzerland. Giger is Swiss, and talked to him. And he ended up getting really into this project. If you see some of the behind the scenes stuff, by the time they went to his house, he had pretty much sculpted a life-size Syl that they could just start modeling after and everything.
I had a buddy back in college in our art days that was really into Giger, and I think I thumbed through that exact book you're talking about, Arnie, a few times, and he was way into Alien and all that, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool, and I kind of could see getting into him and stuff. But all these years later and watching this movie, I'm going to spoil it just a little bit here. I feel like Giger's kind of a one-note artist. Honestly, I feel like he's almost aping his own notes with this alien design, to be fair.
No, I agree with you there, Justin, and we're going to see a lot of comparisons. We'll talk about, I think, comparisons to Alien throughout this picture. I will spoil a little bit of my thoughts ahead. I don't think this is the best Giger look that we've ever seen on screen. That is still Alien. I don't think that may ever change. In between this and Alien, I think the only other thing I saw Giger was credited for was the look of some monsters in Poltergeist 2.
Yeah, Stuart talked about that when we did our Poltergeist 2 review way back when. Looking it up, he did some stuff for something called Tokyo: The Last War, but primarily he's not a film guy, he's a painter, and to get him on this project is a get. I did find it kind of funny, though, because apparently he had this idea that I think he did for one of the Alien sequels or something, of a alien train that was going to be used, and he even sculpted the train, and it was all alien heads, and he painted this train. And when they came to him for this, he's like, I'll make your creature, but you must use my train!
Where's the train? What?
In a nightmare sequence, there is a alien-esque train that chases young Syl, and this is all a requirement of Giger, is that you must use my nightmare bioengineered train in your movie if you want me to design your creature.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he designed that train as a kid, and he'd been trying to shoehorn it into projects when Alejandro Jodorowsky was going to make Dune. Giger was working on that and like, you must use my train! And then he was working on a Ridley Scott film called The Train. He's like, you must use my train! And so finally, we get to Species. He's like, you will use the train!
Are you trying to tell me that Giger is the reason we get these dream sequences in this movie? Dream sequences that really go nowhere?
You know, not to reveal too much of my thoughts, there's quite a bit in this film that goes nowhere. So, but I'll agree with you, Justin. When I looked at those books, all of his paintings did look to me like the walls where the aliens made their resin nests in Aliens. It's like every single thing he designed could just be where the space jockey flew from. It is very of a singular style that, I'll agree with you, doesn't have a lot of variance. And that may be why Giger doesn't do a lot of movie designs, is because everybody would say you're ripping off the Alien again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, his style's very insect, segmented lines and bubbles all over the place. I mean, you can see it from a mile away when it's a Giger thing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like you said, Arnie, it always will remind everybody of Alien. And if that's not what you're trying to do, then you probably need to go a different direction.
And Giger was actively involved in this production. He didn't just like hand them the designs and go. First of all, what he built, I think he thought the prop makers might actually use and puppet and things. And they're like, well, no, we have to hide the wires and do these things. So we had to remake it. But then during the production of this film, he sent a fax to Mancuso, which I love, it's just so 90s, saying he was upset with Species because it has so much in common with Alien. I'm sure we're going to be calling it out, but he felt like the cocoon, the use of flamethrowers, the creature kind of punching through somebody's skull. He was afraid of this film being too derivative of that and Alien 3 and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. He wanted this film to really be something unique. I don't know that he got what he wanted, but he tried.
Yeah, they wanted his name, and this was the film that we got. If you really want to break it down, what we're about to review is a pretty big budget sci-fi horror film that's not entirely original, but it has the two things that are going to bring young audiences into the theater in the summer 1995, nudity and violence, and that's all you need.
It's amazing how far we've come in 30 years that now that only works on HBO.
It's the Mancuso playbook. It worked all through the 80s for him with slasher movies. He's trying to do it again now with sci-fi horror.
Well, Arnie, let's see if they were successful at bringing those two things to audiences in 95. Give them the plot.
We have received a transmission from an alien intelligence. They sent instructions on how to combine alien DNA with human DNA to create a new organism. A government lab, run by Sir Ben Kingsley's character Xavier Fitch, uses this information to bioengineer this new life form. They made it female to reduce its aggressiveness and named it Syl. In 3 months, it grows into the equivalent of a 12-year-old girl, played by Michelle Williams. Did not recognize her.
You didn't?
No. Only a few years before Dawson's Creek, though.
Yeah.
This child has nightmares and violent urges, so Xavier orders Syl terminated, but when they try to gas the girl, she uses her super strength to break out of her glass cell and escape into the night. She gets on a train headed for Los Angeles, killing people along the way. On the train, she enters a cocoon and emerges a fully grown naked woman played by Natasha Henstridge. Xavier puts together a team to track and kill Syl. This team is made up of assassin Preston Lennox, played by Michael Madsen, empath Dan Smithson, played by Forrest Whitaker, biologist Laura Baker, played by Marg Helgenberger, and anthropologist Stephen Arden, played by Alfred Molina. The team creates a complete alien with no human DNA based on the alien transmission. This new creation is an aggressive blob that the team kills with fire. Meanwhile, Syl has gotten to Los Angeles, where she has a strong drive to mate and create offspring. She goes to a club and picks up a guy, but at his place her alien senses make her realize the man is diabetic, so not a good sample to procreate. When he won't let her leave, she kills him. Syl gets hit by a bad driver and is taken to a hospital. She quickly heals herself and meets another man, John Kerry, not the presidential candidate, but that would be awesome. She goes back to John's place and is about to have sex in his hot tub when Xavier's team arrives. She kills John Kerry and runs. Knowing she has to stop being hunted, Syl kidnaps a woman. She then reveals herself to Fitch's team, leading to a car chase where Syl intentionally crashes her car and it explodes, but Syl jumped to safety, and it was her captive's body in the car. The team thinks the mission is over and Syl is dead, but Lennox has a bad feeling it's not. They go back to their hotel, followed by Syl, who now has an attraction to Lennox. Lennox and Baker hook up, and Syl listens through the wall of the next room, which happens to be Arden's room. When Arden, who's been trying to get laid this whole movie, gets back to his room, Syl is ready and waiting. He thinks it's a random hookup, not realizing it's Syl, and they have sex. Syl is immediately visibly pregnant, and she kills Arden. Xavier's team chases the pregnant alien into the Los Angeles underground. And no, I'm not talking about the crime world of Los Angeles, but literally there are caves beneath Los Angeles. Syl kills Xavier, then gives birth to a baby boy who grows rapidly. The boy attacks Dan, but the child is killed with fire. Syl then attacks the group and almost kills Dan, but Dan is saved by Lennox. Lennox shoots Syl with a grenade launcher, and she lands in a lake of fire, dead. The 3 surviving team members celebrate their victory, but in the subterranean tunnels, we see a rat has eaten a dismembered alien body part, and that rat now has alien superpowers as credits roll.
Whew. That was a ride, for sure.
And when we start, Jason, you mentioned aliens. I'm definitely thinking aliens with this opening credits sequence, with the letter species coming into view over the star field, and this haunting score that's reminding me a lot of the score from that original Alien film.
Oh, it's going to get worse. It's really, it'll literally copy beats from, I think, the second movie, the Alien score. Was it James Horner?
I don't know if it's bad, though. This is Christopher Young, a few years after doing Hellraiser. a few years before getting on with Sam Raimi and doing the Spider-Man stuff. And I think this score's really good, but I was thinking Hellraiser when I was hearing these openings. I'm like, some of it's just reminding me of some of the tune from that 87 Hellraiser theme. And then I saw on the opening credits Christopher Young, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's why I'm getting that feel. But overall, I think this is a really good sci-fi score. I think one of Young's best that I've heard.
It's atmospheric. I'm not going to say that it's emotional at all, and I felt it was pretty safe for a sci-fi movie, but nothing super memorable, and there's no real Syl theme, Syl being the alien, but like I said, a lot of it echoes Alien for me. I feel that that's intentional. They want people to remember that. They want people to remember that by putting Giger's name all over it.
And then we get this text that talks about how for 30 years, SETI has been looking for extraterrestrial intelligence, in case you didn't know. And yeah, that can't be good that we got a message back.
So like I said earlier, coming into this, I couldn't have told you outside of Natasha Heinstrich who else was in this movie. And immediately I see Ben Kingsley on screen. I'm like, oh, all right. Yeah, maybe this is higher quality than I remember it. And then he opens his mouth and starts speaking in the worst American accent I have ever heard perpetrated on film.
You know, this is only, 3 years after Sneakers, where Kingsley did an American accent, and I think he uses the exact same voice in both. Was it a bad accent in Sneakers, too? I did not notice all the times he was going, Marty, that he had a really bad American accent.
In Sneakers, I feel like he was being a little bit more pompous, so if the Britishness came through, it almost felt like he was just being upper scale American or whatever, and not immediately. I'll say it doesn't really hit me until later on in the movie, but yeah, the more he speaks and the more lines he has, the more obvious it is that he's masking an accent.
He doesn't have any lines here in the beginning. He's just going to be this ominous figure looking at little Michelle Williams in a glass cage as these guys come in their hazmat suits to hook up some cyanide gas and just kill her right away.
Yeah, not a lot of dialogue in these early scenes, and this is actually something I do want to point out, this screenplay. These early scenes allow us to kind of follow along, put it together in our head. We've met a little girl, she lives in a bubble, she's being overseen by a bunch of scientists, Ben Kingsley's obviously the leader, they're going to put the gas in, we don't quite know why. So they're going to just kind of set up a mystery, and they're not going to talk us through it. We're going to find a lot of the dialogue in this movie is talking us through it. And that's going to happen when we meet the characters later on. They're going to tell us everything that the alien's doing, everywhere she's going, what she's thinking. So this is one of the rare non-expository scenes in the movie.
See, I didn't find it, even on my first watching, that I didn't know what was going on, but that's because the trailers and the whole concept about an alien woman and everything, I think the first time I saw this, I knew what was happening, is that this was an alien girl and that they were trying to end her existence and that it would be the kickoff to something, but I didn't find this a mysterious hook into the film just because I knew where it was going even in 95.
Yeah, I think they were playing a little bit more for the humanity of it, right? Like, we see that Kingsley's making this decision, but he's not happy about it. He's shedding a tear as he looks wistfully on at his experiment that they're about to end.
Do you feel he's a bad guy right away? Do you get the Dr. Frankenstein off of him?
It's definitely a Dr. Frankenstein story, but it's strange because here he does shed a tear and say, I'm sorry, as the little girl is lip reading in her glass bubble. But for the rest of the movie, he's this almost taken from a 1950s sci-fi movie, evil, mad scientist who's all about the science and doesn't care about humanity. It kind of goes back to the alien concept of the whole reason the Nostromo was sent was to get the aliens to bring back to Earth, and how Paul Reiser wanted to get them back and things, how you always have somebody who wants to study the aliens or champion the aliens, and that's kind of the role Fitch is in here. But he's also going to lead the kill squad and yet still has this tear going on here. I mean, good on Ben Kingsley for if he mustered that tear out of his own glands, or if he just put a drop of water on his face to sell the scene, but I don't find a consistent portrayal in Fitch in this movie, which is a little frustrating.
I agree with you 100%. And in fact, there's a bit of a turn toward the end of the movie that we could discuss when we get there, where I really looked at it and said, whoa, wait a second. This is not the same Ben Kingsley that we've seen for the last hour.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It's inconsistent in the character portrayal. It might be the problem of the writing, because we all know Kingsley is capable of doing greatness on screen, so maybe he just wasn't really understanding what he was supposed to be portraying, or maybe he wasn't being directed well. But you have an Oscar winner like him in your movie, you would hope to give him something to chew on and something to portray to us as the viewer.
Yeah, I can't figure out, in all the research and reading I've done about this movie, listening to multiple commentaries done in the years after, I can't figure out how the hell they got Sir Ben Kingsley unless he just wanted a new place to live and wanted a paycheck. I mean, Michael Madsen we'll talk about, but he was pretty big in the 90s. He'd worked with this director before, so I see him. Forrest Whitaker was still on the upswing of his career. He'd done some interesting things, but also would do some schlock, like the 1994 Body Snatchers film we reviewed last year that he was in. But Ben Kingsley, I wondered why he was in Sneakers, but at least Sneakers was really interesting and really smart. Why he's here, I do not know.
Sneakers, you have other Oscar winners in there. You know, you got your Robert Redford in there. You got Sidney Poitier. This is Ben Kingsley kind of classing up this one. But he's here as our main guy. When we talk about class it up, maybe we talk about Michelle Williams. She's very young in this role right here. She's only on screen for about 15, 20 minutes, but I can see a little bit of a star in her.
She's good in this movie. I didn't recognize her, and when I saw it was her, I'm like, is that the same Michelle Williams? Academy Award nominee Michelle Williams, who was in Venom? So speaking of Academy Award nominees slumming it, I do think she's better than this role deserves, dare I say. She sells so much in a wordless performance with her face and her body language. I think she does really, really well here.
Well, and even just from visual casting, I feel like there's not a huge leap of logic from this being the child version of Syl and then cocooning into the adult version. They look like that could be the same person, years later. So a lot of times in movies like this, you get somebody who doesn't look a thing like the other actor, and it's a hard leap of logic to think, oh, this is them grown up. But here, I think it's a good casting choice.
Yeah, and we're following Michelle Williams, young Syl, as she escapes from the lab. She gets on a train. And this is where we start to see the first glimpses that maybe she got a little alien inside of her, because she gets kind of accosted by a hobo, throws this dude up against the wall, and he snaps in half. She starts to have these dreams. We're going to get a lot of these dream sequences. Like, the image is watery, like it's taking place underwater, but it seems to be two aliens going at it.
Yeah, it's one of those nightmares that young Syl has where you can see Giger's train with the big skulls that open and close their mouth as the train goes by. I remember before I researched this film, I'm watching this film for this review, and I'm like, what is with that train? And so I'm glad it's explained. But she does have just a lot of alien flashes. It's a good way to keep us interested because they're going to tease Syl's design until the very end. We're going to get to see these flashes of what Syl looks like in her alien form. And then it was during one of these nightmares, she wakes up and this hobo on the train, probably about to molest her, right? I mean, if you walk up to a sleeping 12-year-old girl, you're not intending good things. And so when she pushes him back and we get that Foley sound effect of his neck snapping, it's righteous. You want to see him punished for what he was about to do.
It's very slasher movie. You give us a good kill, a little bit of blood real fast, real quick. Could have been out of any of the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and it also shows us what Syl is capable of. Not just killing an innocent, this guy deserved it. So we know that she's powerful and capable of killing. So we're not quite sure what to expect out of this alien. Is this alien going to go out there and just start murdering anybody they see? Or what's this movie going to be? We're about to find out that she's out here to learn. right? Like, she can pick up on information and human cues very quickly just by observing.
Yeah, she's got some kind of hyper intelligence where she's able to learn to talk by watching television. She was able to learn words by lip reading. Here's the thing about this movie that I find very intriguing, though. Tonally, I mean, I actually think this is a problem with the movie, but tell me if you guys agree. Isn't Syl sympathetic in the first half of this movie? Like, you have a little girl who's being experimented on. She was about to have cyanide gas. She's on the run from mean Mr. Kingsley and his government agents. The opening chase in the night could remind you of Spielberg's opening of E.T. with all those people with their walkie-talkies CGI'd into their hands as they're chasing after the extraterrestrial at night. And we like E.T. And this little girl gets on a train. All she wants is some food. She's starving, and she killed a hobo, but the hobo was coming after her. I really find myself liking Syl for like half this movie and being on her side, even though she's an alien. You know, it's a fish out of water story, right?
I agree with you. She is a fish out of water. And yes, I think we are supposed to feel sympathy for her. And I do too. Through a lot of this movie, she doesn't know who she is, what she is, why she's having these dreams, all that she's known since her, quote, birth, which was very recent because they talk about how the alien life form evolves very fast. She woke up in a bubble. She knows how to lip read, reading Ben Kingsley's lips. That's all she knows. And yeah, I feel for her. I follow her. And I think when you mention tone, this movie is going to be a little bit all over the place. I think their intention is for us to be sympathetic to Syl, but then toward the end, they do want to change it because it is a monster movie. We're going to talk about sympathy. We're going to talk about intention, I think, a lot when we get to Species 2 as well, because I have some serious notes there. But in this case, yeah, I'm with her. And not just because she's about to turn into Natasha Henstridge.
And not to give it all away, but I think that's the fatal flaw of this series, honestly, is they build it up that we're supposed to be sympathetic to Syl, and I feel like the only reason they're saying that is because she's human. But the idea, the conceit of this movie is that they merged human DNA with this alien DNA, but this alien DNA is supposedly from a civilization that's far more advanced than us. Smarter, better, stronger. And the minute they do that, they make this smarter, better, stronger civilization out to be nothing but monsters. And I feel like there needed to be some more explanation other than, hey, this one is just here to kill humanity. And I feel like it kind of falls off a cliff a little bit there. There needed to be a little bit more reasoning behind the alien side of it that we could also empathize with, not just the human side.
I agree with you, Justin. I think they hint that the aliens who sent the message's motivation might be that they want to kill humanity because we are a virus, because they could see us causing problems. And let's face it, we're not really very good to indigenous people when we find new places. We're not very good to ecologies as we introduce our technologies. It's possible an advanced species could be like, yeah, fuck those humans. Let's just send something down to kill them all and make sure they don't get here first, you know?
Right. But then we should be rooting for them, right?
Well, Natasha Henstridge is Canadian, and right now, you know, I'm with her.
Yeah, I really feel bad for Syl on that train car. The last time we see Michelle Williams, she has these worms ripping through her flesh and she's screaming in pain, not knowing what's happening to her as it creates this cocoon around her. It's interesting to me because I did have the thought later on, are we supposed to like the team that's hunting her? And we'll get into those characters really shortly, but I do like Syl.
Yeah, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you could tell a story like this and make it work. I think back to Jeff Goldblum's Fly movie, where he is becoming a monster, but we can be empathetic towards the human in him, and also the fly part of him as he degrades into this. And also, we're on Geena Davis's side this whole time, you know? She would be the team here, but we can feel everything she's feeling with this. And I think it might have been an interesting way to take this movie.
We do get our first kind of glimpses at the CGI work they're using in this movie. These are, again, the early days of 90s CGI. It's not like it holds up too great, but I do remember at the time saying, okay, this looks pretty good. We get the tentacles kind of coming out of her cheeks. They pull her up into this cocoon inside the train car there.
A lot of that is practical. I was shocked at how much of this was practical when I was looking behind the scenes. We're going to get some real obvious, real bad, like Lawnmower Man looking CGI stuff later in this film. I also thought these tentacles, maybe there was a combination of CGI and practical, because I heard that they actually hurt Michelle Williams. The reason she's screaming so well in that scene, they said cut and she was still screaming, and they're like, is she method? No, you're ripping her flesh off with your little worm creatures.
That's some good idea. She was in real pain there.
But some of this is practical going on, and I think that helps this film because it does have a weight to a lot of the stuff we see, like this cocoon on the wall and things.
Yeah, definitely limited by the tech of CGI at the time, right? So it's probably best that they go as practical as possible whenever possible.
But so much of this movie is the team hunting her one step behind her every step of the way. Every place Sil goes, she does one thing or kills one person, which leads the team there as she's moved on to the next. And our first instance of this is Fitch and his people finding the dead hobo and realizing that she could have hit any train going anywhere at this point, and he needs to assemble a team of the best people.
And these are the best people. And we're starting to get our introductions to the team. In fact, they do something that I think is a filmmaking, editing faux pas, in my opinion. We get a quick introduction of Michael Madsen coming out of his apartment. We get a quick introduction of Forrest Whitaker. And then we cut back to Sil. It felt very much like 2016 Suicide Squad, how they introduce us to Will Smith and Margot Robbie. They move on with the movie, and then they give us another introduction to them and the rest of the team later.
Yeah, a little bit. And we don't get a whole lot of Michael Madsen, but it's interesting to look at Michael Madsen's career. He really came to my attention because of Reservoir Dogs. I don't think, despite we talked about a few months ago his small role in War Games and things. And you mentioned Thelma and Louise, a film I still have to see. I've not seen that. It was Mr. Blonde, Vic Vega, that got me to know him. And from that point on, I think of him as a gun person. I think of him as a murderer. And so when he's being introduced in this film as our Preston Lennox assassin, it fits very well with my image of Michael Madsen. What doesn't fit with my image of Michael Madsen is that between Reservoir Dogs and Species, he did like Free Willy and Free Willy 2. I don't know if he's the whale killer in those movies, but
He's got to be the friend. I haven't seen him, but I have to believe that there's somebody on Willie's side, and it wasn't just the little kid.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Arnie, with Michael Madsen. To me, he's a Tarantino guy, right? He's always going to be one of those guys. Caught him here and there and other stuff, but mostly I get him confused with Tom Sizemore. So I feel like I bring in some of Tom Sizemore's resume with my Michael Madsen resume and get them intertwined. But, you know, for a movie like this, he's fine. We're going to need somewhat of a swarmy type of guy who's partially interested in getting laid and partially interested in doing the job, but mostly interested in making sure everybody knows he's got the biggest gun in the room.
Right. The team needed an alpha. He's kind of the muscle guy. And in fact, he's the only one who's going to use a gun, you know, until we get to the last scene where everybody needs to arm up to face off with Sil.
Yeah, he got this job because he was in the movie The Getaway that I mentioned earlier, the Alec Baldwin, Kim Basinger remake that was directed by Roger Donaldson, and he mentioned to Donaldson on the film, he's like, I always play the bad guy. I always play the heavy. I'd like to play a leading man once. And so when Donaldson got this script, he called up Mike and was like, Mike, I got the role.
Mission accomplished.
So what about the rest of our team here?
The strange one for me is Forrest Whitaker as Dan the Empath. We're introduced to him in therapy, talking about how hard it is for him because he's picked on and everything because he's an empath. He's able to not necessarily read thoughts, but he's kind of psychic-ish. And is that a step too far? Again, one of the things I've learned about writing especially spectacular fiction, be it sci-fi or horror or whatever, is you set it in the real world, but then you give it its one premise. You give it its one element of fantasticism, and people will go with that. They'll suspend their disbelief for your one necessary plot thing. But to throw alien communication, DNA manipulation in with random psychic guy is kind of weird.
Yes, and I kind of looked a little deeper into who he's supposed to be. An empath, someone who can sense emotions and intent.
Yeah, Deanna Troi from Star Trek, you know.
A human lie detector. Look, it's not crazy to combine two fantastical elements. If you remember, we got Friday the 13th Part 7, where Jason fights the psychic Tina. In this case, we're fighting somebody with high emotional intelligence in Forrest Whitaker.
It's more than high emotional intelligence, though, because before someone knocks at the door, he says there's someone at your door, and then before they know who it is, he says it's for me. So it's not just emotional intelligence, that's mind reading.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if I would think that his skill set is used the way the movie would want it to be. They almost wanted somebody to be a tracker, you know, somebody who could be like, oh, we're just 3 steps behind because I sense something on the ground here. And they kind of cheat and do that later on. He's feeling residual emotions in the air or something like that. And he's like, oh, she was just here.
He's feeling the pavement in one scene.
Yeah. So yeah, like, interesting character choice. Not sure that an empath is the right way to go here because they don't end up ultimately using that skill set. But I'm enjoying seeing Forrest Whitaker here.
How are you feeling about Marg Helgenberger? And I'm sorry, I just like saying that name.
I'm not feeling much of anything for Marg Helgenberger because I'm not a big CSI watcher. I don't know her from that series that she was on for like a record-setting amount of time and got tons of money, like one of the highest paid actresses for being on that show for 13 years. But when I saw this movie, both times, I don't really know Marg Helgenberger. The thing I know her from, and this is sad, is she was in that really bad Stephen King miniseries, The Tommyknockers, that we reviewed years ago. She was Bobby, that really annoying character.
She had a role on China Beach that made her a bit of a TV star. And hey, this summer, Arnie, she popped up in Bad Boys as that kind of pointless internal affairs person just before Species came out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's a biologist who's on the team. This makes sense. A little less making sense is Alfred Molina did not have any clue who this guy was. I mean, yes, I'd seen Raiders. You throw me the idol, I throw you the whip, but I didn't recognize him as that.
Right.
And bringing in an anthropologist, he has the least to do in this movie, I think, of any of them.
Right, which is kind of maybe why they throw him a bone, so to speak, toward the end. We'll talk about it. Here's what I want to say about this cast. When I looked into the actors in this movie, they're all in their mid to late 30s, which is not old. But look at the way that they dress them, look at the way they give their hair, and when you look at this cast, and you're going into it as a young person going to see this movie, these people, they look old. Don't you want to kind of sex this up? You know, you have a movie about a hot alien, wants to have sex with somebody, the government team is chasing her. Who's your target audience? You know, you cast this movie maybe with some younger, hotter actors, maybe late 20s, maybe a little early 30s. Maybe you ask Ethan Hawke, see what he was doing around this time. This is not the kind of cast that I want for my sexy alien slasher flick. But this is the kind of cast that we got. But I just feel if you're going to have a super hot alien, you put them with a super hot cast and maybe see how the dynamics work there. Not super hot alien contrasted with kind of old, boring, wearing really boring clothes cast.
I feel what you're saying, Jason, because at the time this movie came out, we would all have been about the same age as Natasha, right? So she's our point of view character. The rest of this cast is the age of our parents. So we're supposed to be being titillated in this movie while watching our parents' friends bumble around chasing after this sexy alien with a great rack.
That is an interesting point of this movie did feel to me, watching it for this review, like a holdover of like the AIDS parable movies of the late 80s and early 90s of, you know, have sex and die, and promiscuous woman is going to lead you into danger, fatal attraction kind of things. Your penis can lead you into death stories. have unsafe sex and die. And that reading is very much here that we have this vamp, this woman looking to bed a guy, and she is deadly. And so having, older people trying to stop younger ones from having fun does fit that metaphor a little bit. I don't think they're old enough to be, her parents. We're talking about like a 10 to 13 year age difference. It would really be pushing it for them to be Natasha's parent, but...
There's about 20 years. Madsen's oldest.
Yeah, maybe with Madsen, but looking at like Forrest Whitaker, who was born in 61 and Henstridge was born in 74, he'd have to have gotten a quick start to be her daddy.
It's also the way they dress them, though, right? Like this mid-90s mom jean fashion definitely felt middle age at the time.
Most definitely. They've got big suits that are real holdovers from the 80s. The haircut on Marg, it's brutal. And Alfred Molina, sex appeal was never his thing. I know that he got Selma Hayek and Frida, but that's the closest.
But when the team gets together after finding the dead train conductor that leads them all to Los Angeles, where we get this quote that I just don't know if it's right. Los Angeles is perfect for her. City of the future. Anything goes. Whatever she does, no one's gonna notice. I'm like, exactly what Los Angeles in 1995 are you living in?
I half expected Ben Kingsley to look into the camera after that line and be like, so the movie is going to take place exclusively in Los Angeles from here on out.
Oh no, but he does get that line. Los Angeles is where the battle's going to be fought and won.
Oh my God.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He all but said it. Just like, oh, so this is where we got our permits and we aren't going to be traveling out anywhere. This is going to be taking place in our own backyard.
But in Los Angeles, we do get to see Sil as she learns to be human. She wants better clothes than the train conductor's clothes she's wearing are far too big for a supermodel.
It was funny, though.
It is funny how baggy they are on her and how nobody's looking, but she doesn't understand fashion. So she's going to put on a bridesmaid's dress and wear that out of the store, which has to kind of get looks.
I love it. It's humorous. And yeah, this is where we're getting sympathy for Sil. And we get to follow Sil around and see what she's thinking. And she doesn't immediately start wanting a man. But once she throws on that bridesmaid dress, then you start, oh yeah, we know what's on her mind.
Yeah, she starts wandering through some part of town and staring at people's babies like she's a wolf, like staring at a pregnant woman's belly, staring at some newborns. It's like she's the dingo and she's going to eat their baby.
And we want to know why. So we're getting a scene now of Ben Kingsley explaining to the team what they did with the alien DNA information that was transmitted across the galaxy. Ben Kingsley explains that out of all the alien DNA information they got 2 that are on ice, they got 1 that didn't make it, and they've got 1 that became Sil. And Mark Helgenberger gets the question, oh, but you kept her in a cage this whole time. Forrest Whitaker gets to jump in. Oh, she didn't like that. She didn't like being locked up. Thank you for explaining that, Forrest.
Very empathetic of him. Wasn't there also a line where they were considering using one of those embryos to create another Sil to use as a hunter? Or was that just me hoping that was where the movie was going to go?
I think that was you hoping. What they come up with is, since they don't know what Sil looks like anymore, they realize the cocoon means she's an adult now and they've been looking for a 12-year-old girl. They're like, well, what does the alien look like without human DNA? Let's immediately go into a lab. I love how fast science works in this movie, that in the span of an hour, you can have a lab set up in Los Angeles and just do some DNA splicing and create an alien. No fuss, no muss. I mean, it's like fast food. And it's this action scene that feels a little bit meandering because I think this is here just to keep the audience engaged and give us some danger and suspense and action when Sil hasn't yet started her own murderous rampage. But I don't think we learn anything by having them create this alien organism and then going in because the camera breaks and they drop a bolt and Fitch won't let them out, which is smart. Fitch is right. You do not let them out of a clean room if there is an alien contaminant. sorry people, but we're gonna have to burn you with the alien for the sake of the planet.
We got to talk about this scene because this is a ripoff of the facehugger scene from Alien. You've got two people trapped in the room. The thing is running around. Kingsley here is playing like the Gorman role of everything's good. We have to follow protocol, Ripley. We're not going to do this. It's all kind of coming back to me now as I watch this scene, and I know that they're going to get out of it. There's a green button right there the whole time. Somebody can press it to let Marg and Madsen out of the cage. It's so silly.
But they were worried about contamination. Yeah, really, the scene is here to show us that Ben Kingsley's character is no nonsense. If push comes to shove, everybody on this team is expendable, and his mission is to stop this monster that he's unleashed. But I'm with you, Jason. This lab that Arnie pointed out was built in 20 minutes and all that stuff is supposed to remind us of a spaceship, right? It's got the graded floors. It's got white panels on the walls and everything. It very much is not a clean environment so much as it is a spaceship.
And when I say silly because you're trying to contain the alien in a box. A bolt falls out. The bolt falls under the grate. Get the bolt out from under the grate. If we can't do this, we can't close the box. If we can't close the box, the alien's going to get us. Ben Kingsley, let us out. I cannot break protocol. I realize what they're doing, but they're not scaring us at all. We're not worried that Marg and Michael Madsen are not going to get out of the scene. The only thing we want to do is see how big the alien grows. At this point, it's just kind of growing into a big kind of a bubble. It doesn't resemble Syl at all. It doesn't really resemble anything except something with a lot of tentacles.
Yeah, organic goo.
Yeah, it feels like something out of a cheaper movie. It's making me think again of that 1994 Body Snatchers movie, and I never at any point think that we're going to see Michael Madsen and Mark Helgenberger burned up in this lab. It is a little shocking to me that Forrest Whitaker and Alfred Molina team up to tackle Ben Kingsley so that Molina can open the door. And then, yeah, there's no repercussions for breaking that seal. That should really, I think, be the end stinger. Not, hey, a rat ate a piece of an alien and thus he is alien. That doesn't make any sense. But that something is still alive in this lab because they opened that door would be a good end hook. And yeah, we see Syl has found herself a place in a shithole motel. And I don't know if either of you guys had a, hey, it's that guy moment with the hotel clerk.
Go for it, man. Tell him.
I just saw Fire Walk With Me in theaters because Alamo did a David Lynch retrospective in honor of his passing. And this guy is the sheriff from Fire Walk With Me, the pissy sheriff, like the dark mirror to Sheriff Truman, the sheriff who was getting in the way of Chris Isaac and Kiefer Sutherland and was just being a dick to them. It's this hotel clerk. He was in Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me 3 years before Species.
And now he's here for a full profile shot.
And he'd go on to be Zachariah in Children of the Corn 666.
Oh, well, who can forget that?
That's the one. Sure, you can't forget that Zachariah role. How could you?
Yep, but we're seeing that Syl is evolving, learning, I guess. She's starting to grasp the concept of money, even though she doesn't necessarily understand the value of each bill or whatnot. But she understands that she can exchange this paper for a place to stay at a hotel. And I don't know that I want to think about that too much, because I don't need this movie to bog down and slow down and show us her learning this type of thing at an annex or something. But yeah, we take that leap of logic that she's starting to understand how society works. So she gets a room, she changes. She comes back down to the desk and she's looking for dudes. She asks our desk guy where she can find some dudes, and he points her towards a club down the street.
Club Id.
Yeah, she has been in the room, messing around with remote control, watching shows, learning about boys and sex.
And hair dye, and I think she watches some hotel porn.
Who among us has not, you know?
So yeah, here we're 36 minutes into the movie. I feel like this is our first real Natasha Henstridge topless scene. You know, she emerged from the cocoon, but that was covered in slime and things. This is the first, gratuitous shot. And I gotta say, despite this movie being billed as, and in my memory as, Natasha Henstridge is nude for most of the movie, I don't think that's true. You know, when I think about like the movie we reviewed, Life Force, years ago, about the naked alien going around, and she was naked for a lot of that movie and things. Here, Natasha Henstridge, gorgeous model, had no inhibitions about showing off her body, and that's great. But, I mean, one of the first things we see her doing is putting on a bra and a top and dressing up to go out to a club. It's not like she's just wandering down the streets naked.
Yeah, first thing she literally does when she gets to LA is starts hitting the shops, right? She's a gal and she's got to get some clothes.
She must have seen Pretty Woman on the train.
They put that female DNA in her to make her docile, and what they do, they made her expensive.
Well, let's talk about expensive. She goes to this club, and this is a club I'm not familiar with, where you've got trapeze artists swinging above you. You've got a lot of dancers, big screens. I didn't know LA clubs in the 90s, but I didn't imagine they were all like this.
I thought you might have gone there. I mean, this is a real LA venue called the Pantages Theater that they had converted into this club id.
Oh, okay. So this is not a real nightclub.
I was getting a little bit of Night at the Roxbury type of vibes here. You know, it is the mid-90s, and we're getting a little bit of house music and strobe lights. But yeah, Syl's on the prowl. She's out there looking for, I don't know if she's looking for the perfect mate or just a mate, to be honest with you.
I don't know, but whatever she's looking for, she's going to get an age gap relationship, because just like the cast of this movie, this club is full of old people. I have never been in a club with such old people in my life. Natasha Henstridge is 19, 20 years old in this film. She's the youngest person in the club.
And you mentioned Night at the Roxbury. I was thinking the same thing, Justin, when she walks past that line of people waiting to get in, and the doorman just sees Natasha Henstridge and is like, legs, you get to go in. And everybody else stands outside like the Utabi brothers have to.
Legs in a fanny pack.
Well, you gotta have some place to keep that wad of cash. But you'd think Natasha Henstridge would have an easy time of it at this club. I mean, yes, she's younger than your average goer at Club Id, but the first guy she hits on, another woman steals. She comes in and is just like, I've got a party and no one to take me.
You fool. Yeah, this woman in a black mini dress kind of steals Natasha's man. So when she goes to the ladies' room real quick, Natasha's going to sneak into that bathroom, and then we get a little Syl coming out of the wall.
It's not the most logical death, because Syl follows this drunk girl into the bathroom, and the girl's like, well, all's fair in love and war, hee hee hee, and then goes in to use the toilet, and instead of just attacking her, Syl then traces the architecture of the building to whatever wall is behind that specific stall and punches through the cement to rip this woman's spine out. I would think you could just, barge into the stall and kill her.
So let's just throw all logic out. Yeah, it makes no sense. It didn't make sense to me back then when I was a teenager watching it, but I was just like, oh, that's cool. You get to see the woman's spine ripped out and like broken in half of her body.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat move.
And we get a little glimpse of alien arm. It's an alien suit arm. There's no CGI here. This is a suit that a stunt person is wearing, reaches through the wall to catch Natasha's prey.
But then Syl's like, all right, I got to step up my game. I've got to be even more alluring. So she's going to take off her sweater, just walk around in her bra. I'm like, Sue Ellen Mishke?
That's what I thought. Thank you.
The O. Henry heiress.
Yes. All right. Now you both got it. Yeah, she starts walking around the club in her bra, looking stunning. And the first guy that she meets is this guy, Robbie, long-haired, rock and roll, large nose fella.
Yeah, this guy worked in the mid-90s. He played Robbie in Species. He was lead F-18 pilot in The Rock and co-pilot Tucker in Armageddon. So,
co-pilot Tucker.
Yeah, exactly. But he takes her back to his place and, nice guy, wants to clean up, maybe got a little sweaty at the club. Let's take a shower before getting down to business. I'm going to go clean myself up. I do not know how hot that shower is. When he gets out, his chest looks like a cooked lobster.
This is a kind of crazy scene, right? Like, she willingly goes back to his apartment. He's picking up on her signals. He has no idea she's an alien. It's just a hot chick in a bra who's apparently ready to go, and she is ready to go. And so they start making out, but she backs away and find out that there's something wrong with this guy, but we don't know right away what. And so he gets a little bit rapey. He starts getting handsy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this guy, I mean, look at him. They set this guy up immediately. I'll take the line from Mallrats. He looks like a date rapist. He doesn't take no for an answer when Natasha says, I want to stop with the making out. And it's not going to work out for him because he's going to get the alien treatment.
Oh, yeah, he gets tongue punched right through the back of his head. She gets him pretty good, and he goes down immediately. And of course, our team somehow is just steps behind all of this. They come breaking in moments after this happens, and she's already in the wind at this point.
Yeah, with somebody at the club, the doorman knew Robbie. Oh, well, he left with a blonde. Oh, it must be him. Must be her. And then they follow.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, the club, they'd found a dead body in it at this point. So they had reason to start paying attention to who went where. And yeah, the punch through the skull, very alien-esque, and this is what you get. She just wanted to be taken back to the club, let's pay attention. She's not murderous unless you get in her way like that other woman did. You know, her drive is to procreate with a healthy male specimen, and when this guy doesn't learn no means no, she's going to puncture his skull. But yeah, the team gets to his place in the Hollywood Hills. Gorgeous place, and I thought for sure we were going to get a sword fight, because as they're approaching from the back and you see into his place, there's all these samurai swords on the wall and shit, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're getting swords for Michael Madsen. He's going to go kill Bill. He's going to get a fucking sword. He's going to fight an alien. It turns out whoever's house this is that they rented it from, they had a sword collection and they just didn't redeco the room, so this is the homeowner's actual sword collection. But I thought for sure it was Chekhov's sword and we were going to get some sword versus alien action when the team shows up here.
Yeah, that would have been great, but nope, she's just gone in the wind and they're still one step behind and having to figure out where she is now.
Yeah, this is a chase scene. Michael Madsen's got his gun. She's running. She's able to escape again. And this is a twofold moment for them. This is where Laura, Marg Helgenberger's biologist character, is realizing she's trying to mate and that this guy was diabetic. I love that they go through this whole thing. They don't just find the insulin, they find the needle and they're like, maybe he was a doper or diabetic. And then they find the insulin and like, yep, he's diabetic. You could have just gone straight to the insulin on this one instead of wondering if she doesn't want to fuck heroin addicts. But they find she's menstruating because she left blood on the toilet, so she's fertile. But this also is the end of their investigation because, I mean, it's just been breadcrumbs of dead hobo leads to dead train conductor, leads to credit card of dead train conductor being used at the hotel, leads to the hotel guy saying, oh yeah, the hottie went to Club Id, leads to the bouncer at Club Id saying, go to Robbie's house. But now the trail is cold. They don't know what to do anymore, and they know that the clock is ticking because she's trying to sleep with someone, and I don't think they even know she's attractive and how easy that'll be for her in LA.
I think that where we are at this point in the movie, I guess it was important for us to have that really bad alien ripoff lab scene because it at least gave the cast something to do. We're now 45 minutes in. All we've gotten from them is talk. There's kind of an over-reliance of exposition when it comes to this team. So when they show up at the place and they start explaining, oh, maybe it's diabetes, oh, it's a doper, da-da-da. We're so fortunate to have Forrest and Marg here to explain Syl's motives and emotions, but it doesn't create any tension. They're always a step behind. They're always like, Syl is going to go find the man and the mate. And then the next scene, Syl's going to find the man to mate. And we know that they'll show up after either Syl was successful or unsuccessful. I feel there's no trust in our imagination here. And there's not a lot of suspense going on in this film. We know exactly what Natasha Henstridge is after. We know the team is only after Natasha Henstridge. It just feels that the suspense is kind of drained before it even has a chance to take hold.
What's getting me is, a long time ago, I read that screenwriting book, Save the Cat, and it's really interesting, but, you know, it points out formula really well. So if you want to just see formula and then know when films are following it, you can read that book and use that structure. But there's a portion that author referred to in the movie as fun and games, where things just start happening to fulfill the promise of the premise. You're not necessarily pushing on to the next plot beat. You're entertaining by indulging in your conceit or your concept or having fun things go on. It's at this point of the movie where I feel like the fun and games is Feldman, the screenwriter, not fully living up to what a Species movie can be. Because where we're going to go from this is now Sil is going to randomly get hit by a bad driver because of a skateboarder, leading to a series of happenstance that the team picks up on because she's taken to the hospital with like a broken shoulder blade, and when she's able to heal it herself, the doctor calls into somebody, I don't know who you call about weird medical stuff, that instantly gets to Xavier Fitch, Sir Ben Kingsley, but it gives them a new lead. And we're going to have another sex scene. And this one, we get to see more of Sil come out at the end. She's really aggressive in that hot tub. And then we see some of the alienness as, again, the team arrives just as they're about to copulate.
Yeah, let's break down this hot tub scene because Justin mentioned it being a big part of the marketing. I really felt that, this is where they want to showcase Natasha Henstridge. Not to mention they want to showcase Top Gun's Whip Hubley. This is the guy who rescued her, took her to the hospital, and then took her back to his place.
See, I don't remember him as Hollywood in Top Gun. I remember him specifically at this point. I'm sitting in theaters going, oh, it's Agent from Dead at 21.
Dead at 21? Are you serious?
Yeah, I loved Dead at 21, this forgotten 1994 MTV TV series starring Jack Noseworthy, who I would see in 95 in Event Horizon, and the girlfriend from the first couple seasons of Doogie Howser on the run from Whip Hubley, who was basically, I think The Matrix took a little bit of Dead at 21 because he was very Agent Smith in that Dead at 21 TV series. And so when I saw Whip Hubley here, I'm like, oh, it's the agent from Dead at 21.
It's Top Gun or Ruskies, if you ever saw that one.
No, my next go-to for him is Executive Decision.
Oh,
good
gosh.
Lord. What I'm noticing here isn't his past roles. I'm noticing that every late 20s, early 30-something guy here in LA has an incredible pad, right? Like, do none of these guys, just live in a normal small house or an apartment? These guys have awesome houses in the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, Marg should get the number of a couple of these guys. It's unfortunate that Sil takes him out.
Yeah, this one is actually in the Pacific Palisades, so they go a little bit further out for this guy's hot tub.
We do get a really good kill in this hot tub scene. Madsen and the team, they bust into the house, and Whip wants to get out and answer the door. Natasha's not good with that. And when she says she wants a baby, he's like, whoa, I did not sign up for this right away. She drowns him in the tub. We get to see the tentacles as she's kind of half transforming into an alien. Her tentacles come out of her nipples and choke him. That's Giegerish.
Yeah.
That is all Giger, too. That was his idea, to have these, snake things come out of her breasts and choke him.
This is her first kill, not out of necessity or fear or anything like that. I mean, I suppose she's fearing what's coming through the door, but this poor guy does not deserve to die. He could have been left alive.
Yeah, he was a sweet guy. He didn't even want to go too fast for it. He was saying, hey, let's slow down. We just got in this hot tub. We don't have to make a baby right away. Although I'm willing to risk it all for Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah, he wanted to take a photo. He's being romantic. He paid for her medical bills on his credit cards in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean...
Good guy John Kerry.
That's Tom Cruise level type of giving.
This is a keeper guy, this John Kerry. But you're right, she didn't have to kill him. I don't think it helped her to kill him. And I understand, in theory, that her breeding is bad for humanity. But I'm still kind of feeling bad for her, and I'm just not liking this team. Michael Madsen is just really stoic. Ben Kingsley's kind of a dick. Laura, the biologist, isn't giving me much. Alfred Molina... he's jealous that Laura is into Michael Madsen and not into him. The only one I like on this team is poor, sensitive Dan, Forrest Whitaker, who is the only one who seems to feel for Sil. He's the only one who's like, she's afraid. She's scared. She didn't like being left all alone. I'm still very much on Team Alien at this point. And poor John Kerry gets drowned in his own hot tub as Lennox and Laura come in. And this is where Sil gets her first look at Lennox and is like, oh, he's the alpha. I need him. And we get this actually good CGI shot of like Natasha Henstridge's eye looking through like a bush or a knothole, and it turns into an alien eye and then CGI's back to a human eye. I thought that, it's morphing. They had morphing pretty well done. Michael Jackson was doing it in his black or white video years before this. So morphing was pretty reliable go-to, but it worked well here.
So we have Syl looking at Lennox through the vents here. Here's what I would have liked to have seen. Wouldn't it have been more interesting if they had, well, first of all, let the team get a look at Syl, and then it turns out Madsen finds himself slightly attracted to her. So he's got a little bit of a love triangle going on. Wouldn't it be interesting if it was more like Madsen likes Marg, maybe still has a little thing for Syl. Syl has a thing for Madsen, and we know that Molina has a thing for Marg. They're trying to set up that love triangle. They're doing it badly. But I think that they really could have played with the dynamics of the team with Syl and how they all feel about each other. It really just would have helped create maybe a little bit more sexual tension, maybe some chemistry between the actors, and just something to watch, because right now the team isn't doing very much for me.
Or have your empath starting to fall in love with her because he's understanding her true motivations and falling for her.
Try something. Do something interesting.
Yeah, instead they're going to go the exact opposite way. Going back to the fun and games, we're going to get the strangest twist I could never see coming. All right, she wants to have a baby. It's the Ace of Base song all over the place. And instead of, I don't know, going to another area of Los Angeles, again, they've lost her. Their only hope is go back to the club. We don't know what else to do.
The same club.
She is going to come up with this convoluted scheme that's going on for several scenes and several minutes. I figured out what she was doing halfway through. I did not remember this from my watchings in the 90s, but when she's stealing a car and filling these containers with gasoline and kidnapping a woman and tying her up and cutting her own thumb off and then cutting off the thumb of her hostage, at a certain point I went, Mark Helgenberger is going to be on some of these procedural shows. Maybe Syl is starting to create a procedural I'm really dead thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some weird choices inside of these weird choices too. Like you mentioned, she kidnaps this poor lady in her grocery getter station wagon. She takes her back to her house. And some point off screen, she decides to take her out of her clothes and put her in a nightie so she could tie her to the bed. Like, what was the point of that? She could have just kept her in the closet or tied her to the bed. Why is she changing this woman's clothes?
Especially this woman. We should point out this. I feel real bad for Syl because this lady's wardrobe, her whole look is terrible. She reminds me of Kim Darby in Halloween 6. This is exactly what the woman looks like. Long skirt, this yellow sweater. I realize that we're not here to criticize the costume designer, but come on. You got Natasha Henstridge here.
And I'm still feeling for Syl, though, because even though she's taken an innocent woman hostage, the woman is like, let me go, I wouldn't hurt you. And Syl's like, yes, you would, you just don't know it yet. So I'm still finding Syl to be a sympathetic villain, whereas I still don't like any of the people chasing her.
But here's where we're going to have to spend a little bit more time with the people chasing her, because this is where we're starting to get a little bit more of the interaction between the characters. We get Marg and Madsen in the car together, kind of flirting, kind of trying to feel each other out. I want to say this. Michael Madsen has two character traits he brings to this role. One is with the gun, where all he does is kind of do a kneel down. He does a crouch down, almost like you press down on the controller move with the gun, where he crouches down and he points the gun out. That's one. He does that repeatedly in this movie. And then when he's delivering his dialogue, it's always look off to the left or right for the first line, then look back at you to deliver the second line. Like this.
Hey, don't give it away. That's page 2 of the Michael Madsen acting course.
It is something to behold. And while this is happening, by the way, Syl is having more dreams. This time she's dreaming about Michael Madsen, and she's going to wake up in this woman's ugly clothes to carry out her master plan.
Yeah, she had stolen another car. We see that happening. She steals like a mid-90s aqua blue Mustang when Mustangs really kind of sucked. And so now she's got the grocery getter filled with, I don't know if we knew it at first, but it's gas. She's got these huge like 10-gallon jugs of gas in the back. And she's about to stage something here.
Again, I really like Christopher Young's score during this car chase. There was a thing that I thought was going to be something. Alfred Molina is upset he can't get any women, so he's going to go sleep in the van. And then Dan feels like I should leave the club. And we get this tracking shot behind Forrest Whitaker. Now, Forrest Whitaker very famously has a lazy eye and a scar on his face. But what I've never noticed, and what Google doesn't tell me anything about, but this Dan character has, is what looks like a very large scar at the base of his skull. And so I'm Googling, does Forrest Whitaker have a scar at the base of his skull that I just didn't know about? And I couldn't find anything. So I'm like, this is going to mean something. He had an encounter or something that caused this big scar, or she's going to use this scar to rip his skull off or something. But no, Sil is just going to go peekaboo so that Dan can yell, she's here, leading to a car chase, which, again, the Christopher Young score is ramping up during this. He's bringing in some steel drums or something during this car chase. I'm really grooving to this. I'm like, I gotta order the Entrada 2-disc special edition of the score. I need the score in my life. But the car chase itself is kind of perfunctory as we see Sil is in the driver's seat. Tied up in the passenger seat is that hostage. And I guess, have seen too much Law & Order to be like, well, if she's tied up and in the passenger seat, nobody's going to think she was driving the car.
I was thinking the same thing, Arnie. I'm like, hey, I have seen way too much Forensic Files to know that they would not fall for this. The cops are going to get there and be like, nope, this woman was not driving the car.
Guys, you can see, you don't even have to pause it. You don't even have to slow it down. You can go back and watch the scene. When Natasha jumps out of the car, you see a stunt person, all in black, take the wheel. It's not even hidden. I'm watching it right now.
But this is the false ending. I still don't understand why Sil went through all of this to fake her own death, and that she's lucky enough that somebody's like, hey, we found a little bit of thumb here. Let's test only the thumb.
A perfectly severed thumb, by the way. Just a clean cut, almost as if it was made with garden shears. And by the way, when the car blows up because it's got so much gasoline, there is just a row of explosions that take place. This was a very big action set piece. You could tell that they spent some significant money on it, but it's not great. It's not great for the plot. It's great to look at, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
But now, I would think she would do all of this to escape the people that are hunting her, to get them off her trail. The end of this is Xavier Finch, Kingsley, saying, all right, time to go home. Good job. Congratulations on a job well done. And meanwhile, Sil, to continue to evade, is cutting her hair and dyeing her hair like she saw on TV in that ad. All she has to do now is go and get pregnant. So her whole fake my own death seems convoluted. And then her whole, I'm obsessed with Michael Madsen now, and so I'm going right back into the wolf's den to risk being caught again, seems really counterproductive.
Yeah, it's almost here to just be a ruse for the movie viewer rather than the team, but the team does fall for it. Because whatever she does next, unless she just has regular sex with a guy and then goes off someplace and has her baby 3 minutes later, they're going to find out about this, right? There's going to be more mutilated bodies in her wake.
It just seems if her only goal was procreation, I needed a better sell that Michael Madsen is the biggest stud in all of Los Angeles than just Mark Helgenberger hitting on him poorly a few times. I need something to tell me that guy has the sperm for an alien.
She's in LA. I mean, billboards at the time. You would have seen more models and actors advertised throughout the city for her to say, oh, there's a hot person. Yeah, I don't put the Natasha Henstridge and Michael Madsen together. But when we go back to the hotel, we're going to find Madsen's got eyes for Marg as they sit there and talk about their experience. We won, science lost, this dialogue here. And then Marg wants to dance to If You Don't Know Me By Now. God, they're making a movie for old people.
Hey, I like that song. I don't know that I like a cover of that song.
I like that song, but this scene, you know what it reminds me of? Jaws of Revenge. There is a scene, it's a really ridiculous scene where Lance Guest dances with Mrs. Brody in an old person's club. It reminded me of this. I don't know why.
Well, you know, when you're hitting on people at a hotel bar, you take what you can get, both in terms of the talent at the bar and in terms of talent at the DJ station, right? I mean, even if it's LA, business trips are business trips. So you deal with what you can get.
Well, Alfred Molina can't get none.
I wasn't sure what was going on here. This almost felt like a party that they were crashing. But I mean, I think we're just supposed to think they're at the restaurant/bar part of their hotel. But this place is hopping. They've got a live band, people dancing, every table is filled. Every hotel I go to, you walk through the lobby and there might be a handful of people in there, but like this was the most hopping place in LA at the time, apparently.
Yeah, it does not do LA any favors. I love, okay, real quick, Madsen sees another woman at the bar and she's wearing a yellow sweater. And so he runs after her like she's Syl. First of all, he's never seen her in the yellow sweater. Second, you're telling me another woman, an attractive woman, would wear that sweater?
Well, this is what kind of comes between Lennox and Laura, is he's obsessed with Syl not being dead, and Laura's finally like, I'm going to bed, and Dan's like, you should go with her. She wants you to go with her. Dan is an excellent wingman. I'm just going to tell you right now. Alfred Molina needs to listen, because after the two of them leave, Alfred Molina's like, there's two ladies over there. And Dan's like, no, they're not feeling it. And Molina's going anyway to be introduced to their boyfriends.
Oh, yeah. Was anybody honestly watching this and shipping Lennox and Laura together? I'm sorry, I don't want to say it comes out of nowhere, but like, it's just so unneeded, right? Like, the two of these guys...
It's unneeded. I really think if they have done something with actors, with real chemistry, you know, who could have really brought a better flirtation to the dialogue, we really would have felt like, oh, it'd be cool to get the two of them together. Because then we get a scene of Marg doing her lipstick in the bathroom, and Syl comes in, the new Syl, with her new hair, so Marg doesn't recognize her. We want to create a contrast between Marg and Syl.
Yeah, Syl even takes Laura's perfume and sprays it on herself. And then when Madsen is going up to Laura's room, Syl gets in the elevator with Madsen. And I do love Madsen's performance here. It's almost like he was drugged. The level of confusion he's showing of like, what? Two women wear the same perfume. How can that be?
Yeah, he was that attracted to Marg that he hooked into her perfume. I like perfume. There's women that will wear a certain perfume and the smell is instantaneous. So for the rest of your life, you could be walking around and if you smelled it, you turn around and think, was that her? I don't think there's any perfume that Marg could put on herself that would take my eyes away from Syl.
Yeah, which leads us to an unnecessary and gratuitous sex scene. I feel bad for Marg Helgenberg in this because, like, it feels like she was talked into, maybe peer pressured into going topless here because it was unnecessary. And we already have maybe one of the most perfect racks on a woman on full display in this movie. So you're always going to be less than. This just struck me from a real world point of view as something weird, not needed, and almost exploitative at this point.
Well, to that, I have two things to say. The first is, what I found interesting was that Laura, the character, gets Lennox into her room, and what does she do? She pulls his pants down and drops to her knees. So what we're doing is contrasting Syl, who only wants to procreate, against Laura, who's there for pleasure.
Yes.
Syl would never do oral because that's not giving her a baby.
And we recognize here that Syl is only here for human procreation. Biblically, Syl is on our side.
And then the other thing is, you said, was she peer pressured into going topless for this scene? I don't know that. What I do know is Madsen pushed the director for his bare ass shot and then said in the commentary, I wish my bare ass was in this film longer.
Oh, Madsen, you are a specimen.
Think about it like this. I kind of look at the cast of this movie, the team, as the people from Alien. Okay, if you looked at the people from Alien, they were not hot people.
Sigourney was.
So, okay, Sigourney was hot, but the rest of the team was not. And this team, they're just not hot. When we get Marg and Madsen hooking up, it's weird for me. It's like watching my parents.
Guys, we're all so much older than them right now.
But why do they look so much older than us?
I fortunately, or unfortunately, have had zero age-related issues in this movie with our quote-unquote heroes. I don't empathize with them. I don't root for them. I don't think they're too old. And I'm not grossed out by Helgenberger and Madsen doing the wild thing here. I did that intentionally to be an old person reference for sex.
Oh, I love the wild thing.
But poor Alfred Molina, who has had nothing to do this whole movie. I can't even remember anything anthropological that he has said in this movie that led to any discoveries about Syl.
Absolutely nothing.
His only thing has been, I can't hook up with Mark Helgenberger because she likes Madsen. I can't hook up with any of these women at Club Id because I'm not cool enough. I can't hit on these two women at the bar because they have boyfriends and I'm not cool enough. So I'm going to go up to my room. Now, I've had periods in my life, in my youth, dry spells, shall we say.
I think we've all been there.
There we go. Okay. Following you.
And I've had periods during that time of inebriation. However, at no level of inebriation during my worst dry spell would I walk into my hotel room and see a woman, and no matter how hot she is, not call security because there's a problem. Penthouse letters aren't real. This shit doesn't happen. I love that they give Molina the line, this doesn't usually happen to me. As if that has happened before.
Every once in a while, this is crazy. I gotta tell you, sometimes when I was at the Ramada, I came up and there was a couple of girls. But not usually, you guys. Not usually. Look, we're talking about this entire movie. This character has done nothing, but we've established he has no game. And maybe it's because he wears his pants up to his belly button. I swear to God, the fashion in this movie makes me want to throw something. Wouldn't it have been more interesting if maybe they met at the bar real quick? And maybe she talked him into a meet cute and then said, let's go up to your room. Not, I'm going to walk into my room. There's a naked stranger there. Are you a hooker? Like, what are you doing here, lady?
Right. Definitely wouldn't go raw dogging on something like that.
The thing is, maybe that's just Molina's fate. He's like, you know what? If he had said to Forrest Whitaker and said, I'm ready to just turn it all in, I don't care, my life's over, then he could go up and risk it all with Natasha.
The fact that she was basically gooning through the wall listening to Madsen and Helgenberger get it on, too.
I can't imagine what that sounded like.
I'd be remiss if I did not mention the absolutely atrocious mid-90s choice of paint that's going on in this hotel. Like, we have a floor that's got bright green walls. We've got bright red walls in some of these places. Like, what were we thinking back then as far as like, you know what, let's go down to the Sherwin-Williams and get the most basic primary color and amp it up as bright as possible and just do it. Because maybe we're painting over all those faux, like, sponge treatments that people had done in the early 90s and we're just going really bold. But man, oh man, I'm glad that slowly slipped away.
The director could have input on all these kind of things. But this gentleman, Roger Donaldson, is an older guy. In fact, when he's making this film, he's a lot older than the actors. So he's not hip. He doesn't know how to make the club seem cool. He doesn't know to put young people in there. He doesn't know how to pull the pants down of these characters, for God's sake. And nobody else that's working with him is going to do it either.
But Molina does go out in a blaze of glory.
You're right. If that's the way you gotta go, then that's the way you gotta go.
I love his performance here. I'm not even joking. It was like the look on his face when she's like, it's there. It's life. And then she puts his hands on her belly and he's like, oh, fuck.
I dig it though when the tentacles or the kind of spikes start coming out of her spine as she transforms on the bed. That's really good. That's a good effect.
And meanwhile, Dan, the empath, knows everybody's getting it on, interrupts. I guess I have no idea how much time has passed in this film, but it's enough that Madsen and Helgenberger are now asleep.
What? Come on. I thought the same thing when I watched it this time. I think I thought the same thing back in 95. He was done already. I mean, that's what Madsen should be complaining about on the commentary. You know what I mean? Just say, come back and fix this in editing. Bring me back at the last 5 minutes. Make it seem like I was really putting in the work.
But yeah, he's in bed. They're zonked out. But
he's asleep.
But the door starts going crazy. Somebody's at the door with an emergency.
Yeah, it's Forrest Whitaker, and Madsen has to put some pants on. He's in no hurry about this. And I don't know how much he believes or doesn't believe, but then we finally get our climax as Syl bursts through a wall and the chase is on in this hotel. I lose all track of geography as she goes through a steel door and a parking garage and underground.
Doesn't she get to the subway at some point?
Is it just sewer system? I think it's the sewers. Later on, they're going to say they're happy to be back in the sewer. Fortunately, she happened to run right past Michael Madsen's wonderful parking spot so he can stop and grab all the flamethrowers without going out of his way.
Right.
I mean, they do some transitions, and we do go through some doors and stuff like that, but it feels kind of whiplash to go from the stairwell at the hotel to all of a sudden we're in this underground lair.
Yeah, a cave system with oil, by the way.
It's so strange. They go into the sewers, and I guess Syl killed a civil engineer? And how do they dress said guy who works in sewer? Well, he must have a pocket protector and some pencils. That way we know he works in a sewer.
In the middle of the night. It's the same sewer system from Friday the 13th Part 8. There's always guys walking around down there, middle of the night, doing their work.
But then they run upon this, crevice in the wall, and they drop the line. They've been talking about earthquakes throughout this movie. It was a, big thing in LA in the 90s was earthquakes, and Syl was watching a program about earthquakes on television earlier, and so Laura goes, "This must have opened up during the earthquakes." Now, I've read the novelization and the comic book adaptation of Species for this review. In the novelization, Laura says, "Look at that water. It's full of oil or tar or something."
Oh, brother.
Seriously, she says that? She says oil or tar or something?
Yeah. In the comic adaptation, she goes, "We must be below the La Brea tar pits."
Below. I don't know that that's possible.
Yeah, is tar dripping from the ceiling?
But this is to explain why I wrote in my notes, why is water flammable here?
Yeah. First of all, this cave set looks fake as fuck. All right. They do find a little oil reserve, and it's a good thing that they have flamethrowers, so we know exactly where this is going. Here's where a lot of the music feels a little bit like Alien to me. And I want to point out, this is the scene where I feel Ben Kingsley's character takes his biggest heel turn, because all of a sudden he's got a gun. He's screaming, "Which way did she go?" All of a sudden he's very evil. They purposely were like, well, we got to write him in there so he can die the way that he's, quote, supposed to die, the way that the Dr. Frankenstein character is supposed to die.
Yeah, and they dispatch him pretty quickly, too, because it feels like we need to get this team pared down to the bare minimum for our final scene, and Ben Kingsley definitely feels like the odd man out here. And he's the first to go. He gets grabbed from below the surface of the liquid and taken under, and the team doesn't seem too broken up about it. They were like, "Oh, there he goes."
Did you feel he was a villain? You said the team's not broken up about it. Did we feel like, well, Ben Kingsley deserved to die at the end of this?
He was willing to kill Lennox and Laura in the lab. You did call him the Dr. Frankenstein character. The scientist often does have to die for their hubris, Icarus flying too close to the sun, etc. And Fitch was pretty much a dick throughout this whole movie. So yeah, I kind of think he needed to go down. But you say pare this team down, Justin. There's only 4 people chasing Syl, and he's the only one who dies. I actually think we could have done with, sorry, Forrest, I love you, Forrest Whitaker, and I'm kind of glad the black man lived in this one, to be honest. But if somebody's going to die, I think it's Forrest Whitaker, because you have Lennox and Laura in a romance subplot, whereas Dan's the odd man out, so he'd be the one you kill.
Oh. Yep. If it were me and you had to take out one more, I would say you get a sacrifice by Madsen or a sacrifice by Marg. I would have never thought about killing Forrest, but okay, I can see where you'd go.
Yeah, I mean, they even use Forrest as the damsel in distress here in the final scene, right? He's the one who's hanging off the cliff by his fingernails.
He gets 2 scenes, both of which I thought he was going to die in. First, Syl gives birth to a healthy baby boy, and I don't have children. I don't know how old this kid is, but it's making me think of the baby from Superman, just because you got the naked male baby who can do super things. Yep. This one has a super tongue to eat some rats.
Yep, this kid is at least 1.5 years old.
That kid's about 2 or 3 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, I put like he was 5 in my notes, and then because he's walking, I'm like, well, maybe 5. Do they walk by 5?
Oh, yeah. The smart ones do.
But then in the commentary, which was done about 10 years later, they said that boy's probably 11 by now. So I'm like, oh, so he was like 1 or 2. Okay, not 5.
Yeah.
They couldn't contract a naked baby actor.
That baby actor never went on to work again. This is his claim to fame.
Yeah, he didn't even get the Nirvana cover. Didn't even get the callback.
But the baby, because you can't kill an infant human on screen, it's going to very quickly turn into some CGI thing that is not good looking at all and go after Forrest Whitaker. And he's been so nonchalant about it, like, let me put down my flamethrower. Oh, a baby boy, I'm going to hold you. You know, he's not been like, there's a baby boy underneath the city of LA, I need to burn it with fire. He's like, I'm going to rescue this baby. And so it attacks him for it. But he survives that, and the baby goes into the flaming lake because the flamethrower set the oil or tar or whatever on fire in the water. But then, yeah, Syl goes after Madsen and starts to choke him with her tit tentacle.
Which makes sense that if she were trying to murder him, it would be sexually. We're full on alien Syl, by the way. At this point now, it is a woman in a suit, or it's CGI. We do get some spider walking Syl.
Mm-hmm. Though alien in the suit does not look bad, we don't get too many great looks at her. I wish after the movie, I went onto the bonus features of the disc and really got to admire some of the design here. Like there's little like goat horns coming off the side of her head. There's just a lot of flourishes. And Giger and the effects people kept talking about how she was supposed to have transparent skin. And so what we're seeing is actually under the skin, and she's supposed to be like clear coat. I didn't get that from anything in the movie.
No.
My problem with it is it doesn't come off very organic at all. Like, skin is not a word I would use when describing this character. To me, it's shell. It's a hard-shelled creature.
Yeah, it feels alien in that way. The alien from Alien, Xenomorph. In fact, we get more Xenomorph action here because the baby, you mentioned, the baby pops out of her stomach like a little chest burster.
Yeah, but he cuts off her tentacle, or her titicle, I guess I'll call it.
Were you surprised acid didn't come out?
A little bit, actually. But then, yeah, she's going to be tossed down into the flames, but catch Forrest Whitaker, and we get that trope of the bad guy is hanging on to the good guy who's being hung on to by the hero. And so here's the moment. Michael Madsen pulls out a gun, takes the time to load it.
Say the line.
Tells Forrest Whitaker to duck. And here's the line, right? Here's your Bruce Willis line. Here's your Arnold line. Here it is. And it is, let go, you motherfucker.
What?
And I'm like, you needed a pun or something. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, technically she is a mother. She gave birth. And technically she is a fucker because she tried to fuck a lot of people. Is that what Feldman was going for? Was he playing fourth dimensional chess with the use of motherfucker?
You know, I wouldn't say anybody in this movie is playing chess, but I like the way you're going. And if Madsen could have a take back, maybe he would lean into it a little bit. You motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know? But that's it. Syl gets taken out, so she can die like the T-1000 in the flames.
Which was Giger's complaint, is that it was just like the T-1000 in the flames.
Well, I don't know how many more options you have. What, are you going to blow her up? I suppose she could blow up, or just, we could watch her burn to a crisp. You've got the oil pool there. Why not have her sink in?
It would have been nice to have a last shot of Henstridge, because once she gets pregnant, we don't see Henstridge again. And now I have no empathy for this alien anymore. It's a creature. It's attacking the characters I sort of cared about, I guess. The heroes that are written to be our protagonists anyway. So as she dies, since I've kind of been on Team Syl for most of the movie, a melancholy ending of human Syl dying might have been nice to be like, you know, they're going to even say, you know, she was half human and she was half alien. Let's mourn the human half, although they're going to go the other way and was like, Wonder which half is the predatory half.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was half us, half something else, says Marg. Marg had to deliver some tough lines in this movie. And a lot of them were trailer kind of lines. She could have 1,000 babies. She could lay 1,000,000 eggs. That kind of a thing.
But we do have a teaser ending because I guess you are what you eat. And if you're a sewer rat and you eat an alien, you become an alien.
Yeah, that rat gets teased for the future movie. But we'll find out that the rat does not come back, not immediately.
No, the baby had like this super tongue that we never saw Natasha Henstridge have. I'm guessing she has a super tongue. But the baby uses this prehensile tongue to snare a rat, and now this rat has that same baby tongue to kill another animal and leave us on a cliffhanger. There was another scene. If you watch the disc, there's a deleted ending scene of Lennox and Laura on the pier eating ice cream, where Laura gets more of this bad dialogue of, this fight was over the most important thing in the world. Babies. The next generation.
Oh my God.
Oh boy. Literally.
That's awful.
Well, some adult in the room decided that was a good thing to cut, but why would they even put that on the DVD?
Yeah, you burn that footage, man. Nobody wants to hear or see that ever. You throw that in there with the alien.
And then they kiss and walk off screen as the alternate ending. I'm personally happier leaving it with the rat. So, Jason, Justin, do you recommend Species? Jason.
Listen, if teenage me can hear this in the past, just, dude, the movie's not good. And when you get out of the movie and you're going on about Natasha Henstridge, your girlfriend's not going to like it. I want to send that message back to me in maybe June 95 and get ahead of myself. Look, I thought I was in for a ride when we went back to this. I thought I was, okay, crazy, hot, naked alien lady. You know, in Species, it delivers on that surface level promise, but it's really the only memorable thing about the film. It's what I remembered coming back, and now it's all I'm going to remember seeing it again. Once you move past that gimmick, this movie is limp, exposition heavy. It wants to be smarter, scarier than it is. Nearly every character here just kind of exists to explain what Syl is, why she's dangerous, what she's going to do next. It never trusts the audience to put it together on our own. And we get a lot of that Marg Helgenberger ominous sounding dialogue that just kind of comes off as overdramatic. It's hollow. Natasha Henstridge remains the best thing about this movie. They wanted the alien to look like the vision of a perfect female form. They got that. Kudos to her. I'm glad the movie gave her a career. I think she's a pretty solid comedic actress. Like I mentioned, I like watching her in those movies. The rest of this cast, we've seen them do better. The movie's biggest missed opportunity is creating that contrast between horny Syl and a horny team. You put in that kind of subplot, you get emotional weight, you draw us deeper into the characters, you create a parallel to Syl. But no, we get Forrest Whitaker feeling around on the asphalt and Alfred Molina doing nothing until he dies. Visually, Species plays in the same sandbox as Alien, but even Giger, we've talked about, wasn't satisfied with a lot of how this turned out. It shows the CGI was passable for 95. Now it feels low budget. That's fine. You can't ding the movie for that. The creature design, when you can see it, it looks all right, but it's barely showcased until the finale. We talked about the score. Arnie, you and I kind of have differing opinions on that. I kind of felt it was ripping off Aliens a lot. We talked about the costumes. We talked about the wardrobe of these people. These mid-90s holdovers from the 80s. Everybody just looks like they stepped out of an HR seminar. It's so sad. In the end, Species is a premise without enough story to fill 144 minutes. But we wanted sex, danger, and horror. We get some of that. We get mostly talk. I feel like there could have been more scares and a little bit more suspense. This could have been pretty sleek, maybe subversive, unsettling kind of sci-fi horror flick. If you think about something like Videodrome, the way that they played with that body horror, or any good body horror movie, we could have really gotten something that felt different, that they play it safe with this movie, really, despite the sex and the nudity. It's not Alien. It's not Videodrome. It lacks attention, lacks some originality, and it really lacks the craft of sci-fi horror filmmaking. It's notable that this movie, I think this was 95, the next year we would get Del Toro's Mimic, which is not the best science fiction horror movie I've ever seen, but you could tell that it has a real artist behind the camera. And Roger Donaldson, I don't feel is that kind of artist, and I don't feel he surrounded himself with people that were going to make a really unique sci-fi horror flick. So again, Natasha Henstridge, A+, The rest of the movie, I'm going to call it a weak not recommend.
Think you're in for a long ride on this series then. Justin.
I echo a lot of what Jason said there. To me, this movie represents a big missed opportunity, right? Like on paper, hey, let's take Alien, get it out of space, and let's bring it down to modern day Earth and put it in the city. What can we do and play in that playground? And you know what? To me, that sounds like a pretty good movie. But we don't get that. I never really feel like we're in LA. Like every shot of the city feels small and on a set or in the back hills and stuff like that. We know we're in LA. It's explicitly stated we're in LA, yet it does not feel like we're in LA. So you can wipe that right off the idea sheet. So we have an alien running around a city, and what does she do? Well, she wants to have sex. All right, well, good job. You found the hottest lady on the planet at the time to give us some good nudity throughout this movie, enough to keep me titillated and excited throughout this movie in 95. 30 years later, it's not enough, especially with the internet. If that's what you're here for, there's websites that'll show you every one of the scenes where she's naked, and you can skip all this other crap. Because what I want from a movie in the alien genre is some suspense, some stakes, and some knowledge of what's going on. Our team should be out here picking up little clues of what she is and what she's becoming along the way, and taking that knowledge and having to figure out what it's going to take to defeat her. But they're not picking up any of that. It's just the team shows up a minute late, maybe chases her a little bit, we're on to the next scene, rinse, repeat. There's no discovery here. It basically just keeps going on until they trap her in a room where she can't get out, and it just happens to be a room that has flammable liquid. We weren't building to that at all. We didn't think, oh, geez, the only way to kill this thing is with fire. It just so happens to be how the movie ends. And that's kind of the way my review ends, too. It's just kind of with a, I wanted to like this more because it stuck out in my mind as a relic of the 90s, and I think that's where it needs to stay. It's not excellently written. It's not well choreographed. The acting is not great. The special effects are all right. And honestly, what it did is it made me rethink my thoughts on H.R. Giger as an artist. I will give the man credit. He created an incredible alien for Aliens, but here it just feels derivative of his own work, and I don't feel that it was the next thing in his oeuvre. It was just something else for him to do. So yeah, to me, this falls on the mild not recommend for me.
So Species does invite a lot of comparisons to Alien, and not just because both creatures come courtesy of H.R. Giger's biomechanical nightmares. You've got sexual overtones, the life cycle horror, the humans scrambling to stop an extraterrestrial threat. But where Alien ends up being high art in a haunted spaceship, Species is late night cable trash. But I mean that with the utmost affection. There's nothing wrong with good trash every once in a while. I think when we see the difference between these two, I don't really think it's the writers. I mean, if you think about Dan O'Bannon as a writer, I love some of his stuff, Return of the Living Dead, Alien, and he was also a writer of Life Force, but I don't say he and Feldman are vastly better or worse writers than each other. I think the difference boils down to directors. Ridley Scott took a B-movie concept and made a masterpiece. Roger Donaldson took a similar idea and made a skin flick with a sci-fi budget. And yeah, I mean, trash isn't entirely an insult. Now Playing has made a whole cottage industry out of reviewing cinematic garbage. But it's clear Species was never going to be Alien. Not with a plot that's basically sexy alien babe wants to get laid and kill. To Donaldson's credit, he delivers exactly what that premise promises. A slick, silly, effects-driven summer movie. It's light, it's dumb, it's fun. It just surprised me in 95 when I saw it how lightweight it was, especially with this cast. Michael Madsen off of the acclaimed Reservoir Dogs. Forrest Whitaker, a solid actor who had hopped from art films like The Crying Game to, trash films like Body Snatchers. And yes, the big light in the room, Sir Ben Kingsley, Academy Award-winning Gandhi, apparently needing a paycheck. I expected, when I went to theaters in 95, something with a bit more depth, and instead we got a one-night stand of a movie. But hey, not everything has to be profound. Species is enjoyable while it lasts. The action works. The effects are dated, but ambitious. The CGI stuff is terrible, especially CGI Syl running around the caverns at the end. But the practicals are well done, and Natasha Henstridge, admittedly gorgeous and frequently nude, actually gives a pretty solid performance that is more nuanced than the heavyweight actors around her. And as for those named stars in this film, sometimes it's just fun to see familiar faces in a film that doesn't ask too much of you. You know, I can't say I'd like this film as much if it wasn't Forrest Whitaker, Ben Kingsley, and Michael Madsen, and Alfred Molina. Not necessarily because of what they're delivering here, but because it's Mr. Blonde and Forrest Whitaker, who's done so much I don't have a go-to role for him. And Doc Ock, you know, so it's just kind of a fun time to kick back. So, no, Species isn't a forgotten classic. It's not misunderstood genius. I just think it's a good time so long as nobody gets pregnant. So yeah, check out Species. Just don't expect it to call you the next morning.
I like that. And you know, you mentioned trash cinema. I can get on board with trash cinema. And saying that just now maybe just previewed my thoughts on Species too. But we will get into it.
Yes, we have returning players. Michael Madsen and Marg Helgenberger and Natasha Henstridge returned 3 years later for a sequel. I think people were clamoring for one of their returns. I'll let you guess which one.
Mm-hmm.
I love you, Marg.
And we will be discussing that with Species 2 next week. And speaking of species, we're going to be talking about Species of Apes this Friday with Congo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, finally. 30 years later.
Yep, Congo was released 30 years ago in the post-Jurassic Park craze of Michael Crichton novel adaptations, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, who produced Jurassic Park, same effects guys as Jurassic Park, Frank Marshall, who's one of Spielberg's buddies, directing Congo. So, obviously, this is just going to be as good as Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah, better be.
Mother. Sorry, that's the only thing I could do is the ape language.
I'm going to need some green drop drinks to get through this one, I think. But
that's right, the green drop drinks.
Sounds like you guys remember it way more than I do. I know I saw it.
Oh, man, I've seen it again recently.
I've seen it, but it immediately went out of my head. Like, I have no memory of this movie whatsoever. I do remember Taco Bell and all that crap, but I do not remember this movie whatsoever, so I'll be interested to see what it is.
Well, that'll be available this Friday for our patrons of $10 or more through Apple, through Podbean, or through Patreon. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting Now Playing, and we hope you enjoy this bonus June show. So thank you for listening to Now Playing. Justin, Jason, thank you for joining me. And now, it stinks in here. I'm going outside.
It's all over, everyone. Tomorrow you can go back to your lives. Congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review.
Moments like these don't happen every day.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
Oh, I enjoyed that immensely.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
A tremendous achievement that once again proves that if we can rise above partisan politics, America can climb to the heavens.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
I want to see it. I want to see everything. And after that, you'll get your reward.
On our site, you can hear reviews for every installment in the world's biggest film franchises, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, James Bond, Middle-earth, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, Star Wars, and Transformers.
You never listened.
I'm listening now.
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
It's not too soon for us to be together.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
But then maybe you haven't learned the meaning of sacrifice.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at nowplayingpodcast.com.
Wait. You're cutting the funding? You can't cut the funding. I can do anything I want.
And you can join our crowdfunding campaign for early access to new episodes, exclusive reviews, and bonus reviews available for a one-time contribution.
Don't turn your back on us.
Need more Now Playing? Subscribe to our In Focus weekly newsletter for exclusive digital download giveaways, celebrity interviews, behind-the-scenes insights, and more. Sign up through the subscribe page on our website and get it delivered to your inbox every Friday.
Tell him he's about to copulate with a creature from outer space.
You can also compare notes with us on Letterboxd. Go to letterboxd.com/nowplaying to see what our hosts are watching when we're not recording podcasts.
You keep your dick in your pants and your eyes on the prize.
And follow Now Playing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel.
Let's pay him a visit.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
Just don't forget that I'm human too.
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
Where's a good place to find a man?
Now Playing is edited by Heath, Santiago, and Arnie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Credit goes to my crew.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
Hasn't anyone ever told you that size doesn't matter?
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein.
No records. This never happened. Burn the body now.
All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review and no infringement is intended.
What about protection?
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
But this kind of thing doesn't usually happen to me.
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2025, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
She was half us, half something else. I wonder which was the predatory half.
The dead half. Let's get the hell out of here.
And hair dye, and I think she watches some hotel porn.
Who among us has not, you know? Arnie, you're in a hotel right now. If you gotta go, we understand.
I'm in a Marriott property. They don't do that here.
Marriott classing it up. Not like the Saharan Inn.
And what are you insinuating about my cinematic taste, sir? I'm offended. Helgenberger and Madsen doing the wild thing here. I did that intentionally to be an old person reference for sex.
Oh, I love the wild thing.
It's not like Cocoon levels of uncomfortableness, but...
No! It's not.
Were they hooking up in Cocoon? It's been a minute, I can't remember.
I think they do, but that happens at most rest homes. The STD rates at rest homes are nuts. But to bring it back to this... But to bring it back to this film...